Hai and Assalamualaikum. My name is Siti Nurzakirah binti Moham Shahrum, 2190789 from 1TSK1. In this video, I'm going to explain about Microsoft Windows. Microsoft Windows is a multitasking operating system developed by Microsoft Corporation which uses Graphical User Interface (GUI) to interact with the users. Microsoft was originally named Trafo Data in 1972, was renamed as Microsoft in November 1975, then Microsoft on November 26, 1976. Microsoft entered the marketplace in August 1981 by releasing version 1.0 of the operating system Microsoft DOS, a 16-bit command line operating system. Bill Gates and Paul Allen founded Microsoft, and Windows operating system has been its primary product. Like many early versions of Microsoft GUI operating system, Windows 1.0 was essentially a program that ran on top of DOS. Microsoft did not release the system until 2 years after its first announcement, leading to suggestion that Windows was vaporware. However, the point-and-click interface made it easier for new users to operate a computer. Windows 1.0 offered many of the common components found in today's graphical user interface, such as scroll bars and OK button. Windows 2.0 was faster, more stable, and had more GUI features in common with the Apple Lisa. The system introduced the control panel and ran the first version of Excel and Word. Windows 2.0 supported extended memory, and Microsoft updated it for compatibility with Intel's 80386 processor. It was during this time that Microsoft became the largest software vendor in the world, just as computers were becoming more commonplace. The fact that Windows systems were user-friendly and relatively affordable was a contributing factor to the growing PC market. Microsoft optimized the Windows 3.0 operating system, which still ran on top of DOS, for the 386 processor for a more responsive system. Windows 3.0 supported 16 colors and included casual games familiar to most Windows users, Hearts and Solitaire, games that required more processing power still ran directly on MS-DOS. Exiting to DOS gave games direct hardware access, made more system resources available that otherwise would have gone to Windows. Microsoft offered Windows 3.1 as a paid sub-release in 1993. Windows 3.1 features included support for TrueType fonts and peer-to-peer networking. Windows NT release marked the completion of a side project to build a new advanced OS. NT was 32-bit and had a hardware abstraction layer. DOS was available through the command prompt, but it did not run the Windows OS. Microsoft designed NT as a workstation OS for businesses rather than home users. This system introduced the Start button. Windows 95 introduced the Windows operating system to a wider audience with a marketing campaign that featured the Rolling Stones song Start Me Up to celebrate the Start button's arrival to the masses. Windows 95 facilitated hardware installation with its plug and play feature. Microsoft also unveiled 32-bit color depth, enhanced multimedia capabilities, and TCP/IP network support. Microsoft improved speed and plug-and-play hardware support in Windows 98. The company also debuted USB support and the quick launch bar in this release. The US gaming began to wane as Windows gaming technology improved. The popularity of the OS made it an attractive target for malware. Microsoft integrated web technology into the Windows user interface and built its own web browser into the desktop. This feature was one of the defining issues in the US Justice Department's antitrust suit against Microsoft in the 1990s. Windows ME Millennium Edition was the last use of the Windows 95 codebase. Its most notable new feature was System Restore. Many customers found this release to be unstable, and it was acknowledged as a poor release by Steve Ballmer and Microsoft. Some critics said ME stood for Mystic Edition. Microsoft released the Professional Desktop OS Windows 2000 the same year. Microsoft based this OS on the most stable Windows NT code. Some home users installed Windows 2000 for its greater reliability. Microsoft update to plug and play support which spurred home users to switch to this OS. Microsoft delivered Windows XP as the first NT-based system with a version aimed squarely at the home user. Home users and critics rate XP highly. The system improved Windows appearance with colorful themes and provided a more stable platform. Microsoft visually ended gaming indoors with this release. DirectX enables features in 3D gaming that OpenGL had difficulties with. XP offered the first Windows support for 64-bit computing, but it was not very well supported, lacking drivers and applications to run. Microsoft hired Windows Vista after the company spent a lot of resources to develop a more polished appearance. Vista had interesting visual effects, but the OS was slow to start and run. The 32-bit version in particular didn't enable enough RAM for the memory-hungry OS to operate properly. Microsoft tightened licensing rights and made it more work to activate Windows. The company also peeled back user control of the operating system internal workings. Microsoft lost market share to Apple and Linux variants. Vista flaw, coupled with the fact that many older computers lacked the resources to run the system, led to many home and business users staying with XP. Microsoft built Windows 7 on the Vista kernel. Windows 7 picked up Vista's visual capabilities but featured more stability. To many end users, the biggest changes between Vista and Windows 7 were faster boot times, new user interface, and the addition of the Internet Explorer 8. With true 64-bit support and more DirectX features, Windows 7 proved to be a popular release for Windows users. Microsoft released Windows 8 with a number of enhancements and debuted its style-based Metro user interface. Windows 8 took better advantage of multi-core processing, solid-state drivers, SSD, touchscreen, and other alternate input methods. Users found the switching from the traditional desktop to the tile-based interface awkward, even after Microsoft UI and other updates in 8.1. Windows 8 trailed not just Windows 7 but XP in user numbers into 2014. The latest is Windows 10. Microsoft announced Windows 10 in September 2014, skipping Windows 9. Version 10 includes the Start menu, which was absent from Windows 8. A responsive design feature called Continuum adapts the interface depending on whether the user works with a touchscreen or a keyboard and mouse for input. New features like an on-screen back button simplified touch input. Microsoft designed the OS to have a consistent interface across devices including PCs, laptops, and tablets. Process management involves various tasks like creation, scheduling, termination of processes, and a deadlock. Process is a program that is under execution, which is an important part of modern-day operating system. The OS must allocate resources that enable processes to share and exchange information. It also protects the resources of each process from other methods and allows synchronization among processes. From the programmer's perspective, each Windows process includes resources such as following components: one or more threads, a virtual address space, one or more code segment, one or more data segment, environment string, the process heap, resources. Each thread is independently scheduled, and a thread has the following elements: a stack for procedure calls, thread local storage, an agreement on the stack, and a context structure. Microsoft provides a resource describing Windows operating system memory management on their Windows Development Desktop Technology site. Each process on 32-bit Microsoft Windows has its own virtual address space that enables addressing up to 4 GB of memories. Each process on 64-bit Windows has a virtual address space of 8 TB. All threads of a process can access its virtual address space. However, threads cannot access memory that belongs to another process, which protects a process from being corrupted by another process. The computer consists of various devices that provide input and output to and from the outside world. Typical devices are keyboards, mice, audio controllers, video controllers, disk drive, networking ports, and so on. Device drivers provide the software connection between the devices and the operating system. For this reason, I/O is very important to the device driver writer. The Windows kernel mode I/O manager manages the communication between application and the interfaces provided by device drivers. Because devices operate at speed they may not match the operating system, the communication between the operating system and device drivers is primarily done through I/O request packets. These packets are similar to network packets or Windows message packets that are passed from operating system to specific drivers from one driver to another. The Windows I/O system provides a layered driver model called stacks. Typically, IRP's Windows I/O system provides a layered driver model called stack. Typically, IRP go from one driver to another in the same stack to facilitate communication. For example, a joystick driver will need to communicate to a USB hub, which in turn will need to communicate to a USB host controller, which will then need to communicate through a PCI bus to the rest of the computer hardware. The stack consists of joystick driver, USB hub, USB host controller, and the PCI bus. This communication is coordinated by having each driver in the stack stand and receive IRP. File Manager is a file manager program bundled with releases of OS/2 and Microsoft Windows between 1990 and 1999 and available from 6 April 2018 as an optional download for all modern releases of Windows, including Windows 10. The program's interface showed a list of directories on the left-hand panel and a list of the current directories contents on the right-hand panel. File Manager allows a user to create, rename, move, print, copy, search for, and delete files and directories, as well as to set permissions such as archive, read-only, hidden or system, and to associate file types with programs. Also available were tools to label and format disks, manage folders for file sharing, and to connect and disconnect from a network drive. On Windows NT system, it was also possible to set ACL on files and folders on NTFS partition through the SHA-32 security configuration dialog. On NTFS drive, individual file or entire folders could be compressed or expanded. The conclusion is, for most people, Windows is the default choice. By most accounts, Windows runs on roughly 90% on PCs worldwide, with desktop Linux usage accounting for a very low single-digit percentage of usage and macOS making up the rest. In fact, choice is Windows' outstanding features. No matter what kind of computer you want, what configuration or what form factor, there's a Windows machine for you. Microsoft has long embraced touchscreen computing with Windows, a feature not found in Macs anywhere. Windows machines are built by hundreds of manufacturers, and users have long built their own machine from easily available components. That's all from me. Thank you!